Hello, and welcome to a compilation of what we humbly imagine represents the very best of the news quiz in 2018. I'm Miles Jupp, and we're coming to you right in the heart of the 12 days of Christmas, which, if the song is to be believed, means those turtle doves are probably already starting to mount up. I hate to break it to you, but you're in for a hell of a week. So what better time to slice the top off another bottle of sherry, pop a button or two, and reflect on all that the last 52 weeks have brought us. And what a year it's been. You might have thought it would be the year that we finally tired of talking about a little thing called Brexit. But, and I don't mean to spoil it for you, it absolutely wasn't. In other news, diplomatic relations with Russia became as frosty as a certain snowman, especially if that snowman had contaminated a cathedral city with quantities of a lethal nerve agent. President Trump surprised us time and again with his sensitive and informed repartee. We celebrated one royal wedding, barely acknowledged another, and thrilled to local elections. And all the while, our Prime Minister danced like nobody was watching. But we were. Aghast. Let's remind ourselves of as much of that as we can in the next half hour. But before we tuck into that feast of sound and fury, we begin with some cuttings that you, gentle listener, have thoughtfully provided.
We start with something heard on Radio 5 Live this week, read by Zeb Soanes.
Aaron Ramsey will miss Wales's game against the Republic of Ireland tomorrow night as his wife is giving birth to twins. Full commentary of the event is on BBC 5 Live tonight.
Vintage board game, Escape from Colditz Castle, Blue Box edition from 1971. Used condition, 3 escapees missing.
In the event of a fire, if you're unable to leave your room, please call reception. Seal the gaps around the door and expose yourself in the window.
I would like to thank the lovely couple who were driving through Newmacher tonight and spotted our pet rabbit Sparkles on the main road. My daughter was distraught, but I'm happy to say she's now back in her hutch.
I would thoroughly recommend these wipes. I use them daily to help clean the bathrooms, surfaces, and knobs of elderly relatives living with me.
Well, thank you to all the remorseless pedants, eagle-eyed killjoys and vigilant monsters who sent those in. Now let's try and tackle some of the bigger stories of the year. As 2018 dawned, this country's brave withdrawal from the EU had been moving along nicely until shocking new research in geography uncovered a new EU country that nobody had noticed before, called Ireland. The Irish border issue is one of several delightful conundrums that Brexit has thoughtfully thrown our way, but thankfully it was explained to us in no uncertain terms by some of the finest minds from the land of saints, scholars and too many boy bands.
How's the whole sort of backstop thing looking, Neil? Presumably you're completely on board.
Absolutely, completely on board. But I'm glad that people are now realising that it's quite a complicated situation. The border, I'm sick of these politicians going, oh, the border is not complicated. Boris Johnson, that half man, half golden retriever that he is. It's just so frustrating. The border isn't that complicated. The border goes down the centre of certain roads in Ireland. To the extent if you're driving in one direction, you're in Northern Ireland, and the other direction, you're in the Republic. That is a complicated situation. If you have to drive into another country to overtake a car, that is a complicated situation. Get your passport out, Mary. We're going to burn this fella on the outside. That is a complicated situation, isn't it? And you won't be able to even weave in and out of traffic on that road either, because if you do, you look at your mobile phone and there'll be 45 text messages on it saying, welcome to Vodafone UK, welcome to Vodafone Ireland, welcome to Vodafone UK, welcome to Vodafone Ireland. See, the worry is divergence. There are houses that straddle the border. I was in County Fermanagh. My friend said the front of that house is in the Republic and the back is in Northern Ireland. So what happens if the laws diverge after Brexit? What happens if euthanasia is legal in one jurisdiction and not in the other jurisdiction? Grandad, come down for your dinner. I'm fine where I am.
I wish I had some solution for you guys, but no, it's a pile of dung, isn't it? No, it's very hard from the perspective of somebody from the Republic to understand Brexit, because we're so into the EU in Ireland. We love them. We've got teenagers have posters of Michel Barnier on their wall in Ireland. They have an 88% approval rating in Ireland, the EU. It's actually too high. We've been asked to tone it down a bit. They said, seriously, have a little bit of self-respect, Ireland, will you? We're like, whatever you want, whatever you like, but have you thought about what you want for Christmas? Go on.
Is there a solution to the Irish border?
Number one, it's not the Irish border, it's the British border in Ireland.
Okay.
The Irish border is the beach.
Well, I'm glad that we cleared all that up. And may I be the first to say that I'm sure that the government, whoever they may be at the time of broadcast, has absolutely got this whole Brexit thing under control as we head towards the March 2019 leaving date. But in many ways, this was Theresa May's year, in very much the same way that it becomes your bomb if you're left holding it when everybody else runs away at the end of an especially extreme game of pass the parcel. She was, for many, a rock in an uncertain world. Truly, she had it all. She had the power, she had the grudging support of the DUP, and at the Conservative Party conference earlier this year, she had the moves.
They said she danced. I don't think you could really call it dancing. She did a sachet, and it was sort of a swanky swivel type walk, I think.
I think sachet or swanky or even swivel are words that you could apply to what she did. She did movements.
It looked like a removals man on MDMA trying to shift a wardrobe. I saw that and I thought Brexit is clearly already taking effect because it's limited their own freedom of movement.
And it wasn't just on the dance floor where Theresa risked putting a foot wrong, as she was beset on all sides, but mostly her own, by various political gangs all keen to make their voices heard. Not least the European Research Group, led by Jacob Rees-Mogg, who, by the time we go to air, will already have been visited by 3 ghosts. Of course, it wasn't all about Brexit this year, but like the cooking sherry that Grandma has been feeding the Christmas cake since July, in the end, absolutely everything tasted like it.
Mark, who's issued a stormy regional forecast?
I don't really know what that refers to, but it's almost certainly going to be about Brexit. Most questions are now on anything, really. The first question on pointless, anything is probably on. But then all these people, the people that the most angry people are the people on the side that won. Yeah, we won, and we ought to be coming out of Europe now. Well, we are. Yeah, and now that's what's making me angry. And angry about anything. I found a centipede in the house this morning. I said, what are you doing in here, you metric little bastard? We voted to get rid of you. Get out, you French foreign legs. I'm going to have an inchy-pede put in its place. I'm sick of it. Angry. And David Davis is the person doing it. He doesn't. I quite like him. He just sort of turns up like, oh, God, what are we doing again? Like he's the one who's turned up half an hour late. Oh, let's have a look at me cake. Oh, I haven't brought me papers at all. The brother brought me MOT certificate by mistake.
So you think the Leavers are angry. How do you feel about it, Mark?
I don't know. I mean, I did
sort of ambivalent. That's the whiff I'm getting off you.
I just think it's.
At the time of the referendum, I thought, I don't think it's going to be that disastrous, to be honest. But now I think it's just brilliant. Just brilliant. I'm quite enjoying it, to be honest. It's just utter chaos. No one knows who's going to be Prime Minister in a week's time. They're only keeping her in because they think, oh, God, they don't know who to put in her place, do they? And, oh, I don't know, what about him? Well, he has been arrested for murder. What?
You know, we've all been clamouring for clarity about what's going to happen after Brexit, and we finally got an answer, and I, for one, am delighted, because David Davis has categorically stated that after Brexit, Britain will not be plunged into a Mad Max-style world borrowed from dystopian fiction. Phew. Because I don't know if you've seen the Mad Max films, but Tina Turner's always singing and Mel Gibson's got his top off, and that's not a world I want to live in.
It's just so bizarre, isn't it, that the most sort of positive thing he could come up with was, it's not going to be as horrific as Mad Max. You think,
Yeah.
you know, but OK, so give us an example of what it is going to be like, you know, something a bit brighter, like, I don't know, Sleepless in Seattle, or... I don't know.
Oh, that's been nice.
Really bad amateur production of Pirates of Penzance.
It does sound like the sort of thing you sound when you're maybe driving a large family on an away trip. That's the sort of thing you would say behind the wheel when you've absolutely lost it. This is not going to be a disaster. Will you all stop? Let me park. This is all... Daddy needs silence for park. This is not going to be a disaster. Can everyone stop saying it's going to be a disaster? We are going to enjoy Warwick Castle. As soon as we've parked.
holiday, and essentially my mother would make us swim in the North Sea. And she would always take a photograph, and you'd be going blue because it's essentially the North Sea, and she'd shout, "Smile! It looks like you're not having fun!" That's Brexit. That is it.
Across the floor from the government benches, Jeremy Corbyn's Labour hoped to make hay, or at least one of his delicious jams, while the Conservatives were apparently in disarray over Brexit. Despite left-wing gains on the National Executive Committee helping to cement Corbyn's position, accusations of anti-Semitism dogged his party all year. Thankfully, the Labour leadership responded with all the speed and clarity of a runaway steamroller navigating an especially difficult miniature golf course.
It's gone on and on, hasn't it, this anti-Semitism row, which is really annoying for Jeremy Corbyn. What was interesting, Ken Livingstone came out and supported him. I wouldn't say that Jeremy Corbyn's anti-Semitic any more than I am. But and Pete Wilsman, this is the guy, the activist, you know, the one who came out, and he was recorded ranting there was no anti-Semitism in the party, and this is all put up by Jewish Trump fanatics. And he said he's standing by Corbyn. He gave a statement. He said, "I'm standing by Jerry." I mean, nobody calls him Jerry, do they?
It's an unfortunate word to use in the context of anti-Semitism.
Exactly. Nobody calls him Jerry. I mean, not the many, maybe the few. But also, actually, I quite like the idea, because if Tom Watson is the deputy leader of the Labour Party, that does mean the party are led by Tom and Jerry. So he's got a point.
So, as Britain tries to make it on its own in this world, how have our international relationships been faring? Well, this summer there may have been a touch of hyperbole when some fishermen got physical in the name of those fleshy little doorstops of the deep, and the newspapers declared scallop wars.
Angela, who's been behaving shellfishly?
So this is now, is it scallop or scallop? Because I'm a working class girl, I've no idea what... Scallop?
It's got an A in it. Let's go scallop.
Scallop. OK, this is the scallop wars. But apparently, in the English Channel, there's been a sort of face-off between French and British vessels over scallop dredging. They got quite heated. At one point, French vessels were throwing stones and taunting the British vessels, presumably saying things like, "Your father was a hamster and your mother smells of elderberries." I don't know, like that. And eventually, the British fleets retreated after about 15 minutes of stone throwing and taunting, and I believe that means that is the biggest French military victory since Hastings. Yeah. The British are saying what it is.
This is what the news quiz is going to be like after Brexit. It's all going to be this.
Simon, presumably you've been involved in any number of late-night disputes over bivalve molluscs.
I'm always up for a punch-up with the French, but I can't help feeling they're on the right side of the moral divide here. It's quite awkward, isn't it? Because they're trying to preserve the stocks. And also, scallops does feel like a more naturally French dish. It's an aphrodisiac, and it comes with its own ashtray. It feels like this is their turf, to be honest, isn't it?
Further afield, the Korean peninsula was once again terrorised by the machinations of a vain and self-absorbed despot. But after he'd returned to America, everybody actually seemed to get on for a while.
It does seem very strange that an American president would agree to meet with the leader of North Korea. I mean, do we think there is any chance that Trump has got this mixed up and thinks we're all talking about North Carolina or something like that?
Do you think he could be walking into a trap?
I hope so.
That would be quite funny if they just take him hostage and keep him in one of their gulags, and the Americans just sort of go, "Oh, let him back, please. We'll put sanctions on all your Worcester sauce exports."
The Donald received some credit for his valiant work in the Far East, but domestic policy issues and allegations that he might conduct his private life with all the quiet dignity of an incontinent giraffe being pursued through a whoopee cushion factory continued to raise questions of his suitability for high office.
Jeremy, who wants to arm teachers with more than knowledge?
Donald Trump has chosen this moment to moot the idea of teachers being give them firearms. Now, it's easy to snap to instant judgment, and obviously, overwhelmingly, most British teachers are thinking, yeah, can we? My year 8s are a nightmare. If we take the inspector hostage, do we get a good Ofsted? That would be the instant reaction. But what he's saying is he doesn't mean all teachers should have guns. I mean, that would be daft. What he's saying about 20%. About 20%. And he says the ones who are firearms trained, perhaps somebody who was in the military, still gets flashbacks, but he's sort of stable. Somebody who was a police officer who took early retirement over a death in custody. He's now basketball coach. But it's a very messy, complex thing, and there is no easy answer to it, other than the idea that guns are generally not very good, because they really only do that.
Angela, what stormy situation provoked a raid?
The FBI have raided the offices of Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, and they're looking for evidence of payments to Stormy Daniels and another porn actress, I believe. I think the best way to find evidence of whether payments were made to Stormy Daniels is to check her bank account. And that should be pretty easy to do, to get into her bank account, because we already know her mother's maiden name must have been Daniels and her first pet was Stormy.
And if one larger-than-life leader wasn't already enough for us to handle, Vladimir Putin continued to be held in the same abominably low regard usually reserved for the evil people who tweet spoilers about Game of Thrones.
If it's your thing to authorise the poisoning of former spies to get your kicks, that's Putin on the Brits. But I think Theresa May, her capacity for revenge on the international stage has been weakened now. She can't send Boris on a visit, because I think that was the worst punishment of all. Was no, Mr. Putin. Oh, he is a pariah with a considerable Novichok chip on his shoulder.
I do think the problem I have with the news now is that it's all ridiculous all the time. You notice that April Fool's Day has just died now as a concept because people go, is it any different? I can't really see the difference. And I just think there is a big problem in the modern world that our evil is now so ridiculous you can't take it seriously. You know, Vladimir Putin kills his enemies, has extracted a huge amount of wealth from Russia, but he also rides around topless on a horse. It's very hard to hold those two things in your mind at the same time.
But it certainly wasn't all doom and gloom this year. There was at least one royal wedding, although weddings bring their own problems. Who do you invite? Do you book a DJ or just go with the band of the Coldstream Guards because you can get them at mates' rates? And what do you buy as a gift? Does Meghan even eat toasted sandwiches?
Andy, who's been royally snubbed?
I think it's proven fact that nothing causes more fights than weddings. And Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have been drawing up their guest list. And they were presented with a very difficult problem as regards VIPs, because obviously every invite can potentially constitute a snub. You know, if you invite Theresa May, then you've got to invite Jeremy Corbyn, and he'll probably stand around looking like he's not having a very good time, disapproving of the cake. So they've opted for a guest list of normal people, whatever they might be. And it's probably quite a shrewd move, I think. They kind of dodged the bullet. I think they're inviting the Queen, who is a VIP.
I mean, what, they're inviting sort of 1,200 commoners to gather on a field outside while the wedding's going on, with 1,000 other strangers just going, how do you know the couple then? I've seen them on the telly. I've seen them on the telly too. They look lovely. They do look lovely, don't they? They do look lovely. They look lovely. Ooh, sandwiches. I mean,
My congratulations once again to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, two of my very favourite pubs, or at least they were, until they went all gastro. As you may have noticed, I was irretrievably detained elsewhere in the later part of the year. It was my turn to negotiate Brexit. I think it's like jury service. I did what I could. In my absence, the host's chair was ably filled by a series of excellent guest hosts. Here they are, making themselves far too comfortable for my liking. Please don't laugh too much. I'm sat right here, and a man must be allowed some ego.
This is the news that the British government has identified 2 suspects in the Salisbury nerve agent attack. The men using the names Alexander Petrov and Ruslan Bosharov are thought to be officers from Russia's military intelligence service. According to the Prime Minister, Theresa May has vowed to deploy the full range of tools across our national security apparatus. So that's both the mirror sunglasses and the invisible ink.
Also this week at PMQs, Jeremy Corbyn wore a wheat lapel badge in support of Britain's farming industry, although standing in front of Theresa May with wheat pinned to your chest is very much like waving a red rag at a bull.
This is the news that a whale, which is meant to be in Greenland at the moment, has actually been trapped in Gravesend. Head of Science and Conservation at marine charity Orca, Lucy Baby, and that's her surname, I'm not being over-familiar or patronising, said...
This is the most southerly recording of a beluga whale in the UK.
It was indeed the Liberal Democrats conference which took place in Brighton earlier this week. Lib Dem leader and Knight of the Realm Sir Vince Cable made the headlines when he said exotic sprism rather than erotic spasm. You might make fun of him, but exotic sprism is actually the Scottish name for lilt.
Armed police attended what they thought was a bank raid in Birmingham this week, only to discover that the staff were hiding under their desks due to a team-building game of hide and seek. Chief Inspector Dave Keane tweeted to say that phoning the police had been the right call, adding that he loves getting to drive fast with the Ninos on.
There has recently been a rise in people having deathbed marriages in order to secure their inheritance rights. A deathbed marriage is almost identical to a normal marriage, but when you kiss the bride, you do it twice, followed by 30 quick compressions to the chest.
There you heard Simon Evans, Susan Calman, Bridget Christie, Fred Macaulay, Lucy Porter and Joe Brand. Splendid creatures all, but what of life in the real animal kingdom? How have our zoological friends contributed to the news quiz in 2018? After much animal-related whimsy, this year we learnt of the back-breaking plight of Santorini's donkeys and were stunned by the truly compelling footage of a ring-bearing barn owl attacking the best man at a wedding. Then there was Wiki, the whale who could talk. To be honest, I'm surprised the producer didn't invite her to guest host an episode. Opportunity missed.
Hugo, who's in conversation with a cetacean?
Oh, right. So this is the story about the whale. There's a whale in, I think, France, and it's called Wiki, and the idea is that it's been taught to talk. It's supposed to be able to say hello and bye-bye and Amy, which is the name of the person training it, and there's a recording that anyone can listen to, and I did, and it's absolute rubbish. It's just your totally standard insane whale noises, and they're claiming that they can it's like having a conversation with Chewbacca. It's just gibberish. It's nothing. But they insist, no, this whale is saying hello and goodbye and rubbish. But I don't know, everyone says this is great for science and progress, but I think it's a really, really bad idea, because if we teach killer whales to speak English, then at some point killer whales are going to realise that they're called killer whales.
I mean, you can't just say, I don't understand it, therefore it's not language. I mean, that was a justification for empire. It was are you using this country at all? Sorry, that's absolute nonsense. All right, shoot him and plant the flag.
No, but it's not that the point isn't that I happen not to understand it. The point is they're claiming it's speaking English, and it's bloody not.
It's a reach. It's like when, like you go around to your friend's house and they've got an 8-month-old baby and they say, look, she's saying asparagus. And you're like, no, she is.
They say that it's the first of the animal kingdom to mimic human speech, but I must say I'd be quite miffed if I was that dog that had learnt to say sausages. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
We do actually. We can play this excellent thing, which I think is going to.
Is this live?
It's not. We've got him on the phone now.
Hello, is that Wiki?
Can you hear me?
I can't talk for long. I'm on the French mobile network.
All right. No, we understand you. So we'll pay for the call.
That's very kind.
Can you play it for me?
Hello.
Yeah,
1, 2, 3. Amy.
Hey, it was someone saying asparagus.
Yeah. Can we just clarify that the whale was the second voice we were hearing? Rubbish.
One of my personal career highlights for you there, pretending to be a killer whale on a mobile telephone. As an actor, you can't train for that. You've just got to trust to the moment and let the muse take hold. And that indeed is almost it for 2018. Thank you for listening. Please join us again in January when we promise to pour scorn and decant mockery onto all the news that 2019 brings. Before we leave you, there is just enough time for some final cuttings. In the meantime, have a very happy New Year.
Miles, this was sent in by Liz Dive, and it was seen at the Women's Institute Centre in Huntingdon in Cambridgeshire in the Ladies' Loos. Please switch off lights in the toilets after your event.
This was from the Bristol Post, and it was sent in by someone calling themselves Portway Plodder. A new dining experience is coming to Bristol that requires you to be completely naked. Organiser Will Bryson from Eastville told the Bristol Post that he hoped the nudist restaurant would be a semi-regular pop-up event.
We start round 2 with an online review of a taxidermy course.
I always wanted to do taxidermy, and I have never encountered a teacher as talented and patient as Suzette. Mounting a guinea pig was one of the most fulfilling experiences I've ever had.
This is from the Hampshire Chronicle, sent in by Peter Cliff Roberts. On Wednesday, Michael Portillo will be giving a talk about his life at St Swithin's Girls' School.
This is from Tim Viney in Penrith, Cumbria. On Radio 5 Monday Night Club, in a discussion about football, Ian Wright was asked, are there ways round being able to play if you don't have the legs but have the experience? To which he replied, I kind of think that in today's football, you've got to have legs. You've got to have legs. If you look at all the top teams, they've all got legs.
And with that, goodbye.
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 The News Quiz Best of 2018 was presented by me, Miles Jupp, and written by Mike Shepherd. The producer was Richard Morris, and it was a BBC Studios production.